Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It was late on a rainy Thursday night, just before closing at a Costco in a quiet suburban area. The store was nearly empty, except for a few lingering customers, the low hum of fluorescent lights echoing over the vast aisles. A part-time employee named Kevin was assigned to gather stray carts and restock a few shelves before locking up. He had worked there for over a year, and the eerie emptiness of the store after hours had always made him uneasy. Around 9:45 p.m., Kevin noticed an older man in a tattered green jacket standing by the back freezer section. He wasn't holding a cart, wasn't shopping, and just stared at the rows of frozen meat as if in a trance. Kevin approached to see if he needed help, but as he got closer, the man slowly turned his head toward him. His eyes were dark, almost glossy, and his lips moved, but no sound came out. Kevin asked again if he could help him find something, but the man just smiled faintly and pointed down the aisle toward the far corner of the store. When Kevin turned to look, he saw nothing but stacks of bulk rice and cleaning supplies. When he looked back, the man was gone. No footsteps, no sound, just gone. Kevin thought maybe the man had wandered off quickly, but something about it felt off. Later, as he wheeled a pallet of water jugs toward the front, Kevin noticed movement in the reflection of a large freezer door. The same man in the green jacket was standing several feet behind him, still smiling. But when Kevin spun around, the aisle was empty again. By closing time, Kevin was spooked enough to tell his manager, but the manager brushed it off until they reviewed the security footage to make sure the store was empty. On the cameras, Kevin could be seen walking and talking in the freezer aisle, but there was no one there. Yet in one frame, barely visible in the glass reflection of a freezer door, there was the faint image of a man in a green jacket standing behind him, grinning. The manager, now visibly pale, admitted something strange. Years ago, before Kevin was hired, a homeless man in a green jacket had been found dead behind the store in the loading dock after sneaking in during a winter storm. Ever since, employees had occasionally reported hearing footsteps in empty aisles or catching glimpses of someone watching them from a distance. Kevin quit the job a week later. He swore he could still feel cold air on the back of his neck every time he walked down a long aisle alone. And whenever he went to Costco as a customer after that, he avoided the freezer section entirely. But sometimes, just out of the corner of his eye, he thought he saw that green jacket again.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 2.
It was a late Friday night when Mike, a night shift stocker at a local Costco, finished his usual rounds. The warehouse was eerily silent, lit only by harsh fluorescent lights casting long, cold shadows down the endless aisles. Mike was used to working alone at night. Most customers left by 9 p.m., and the cleaning crew took over by midnight. But this night felt different. As he pushed a cart full of bulk paper towels towards the back storage area, Mike heard a faint shuffling noise coming from the electronics section. At first, he thought it was just another employee, or maybe the janitor. But when he called out, no one answered. The sound stopped abruptly, leaving a heavy silence that pressed against his ears. Trying to shake off the feeling, Mike kept moving, but then the overhead lights flickered once, twice, then went completely out, plunging the giant warehouse into darkness. Emergency backup lights kicked on, bathing everything in a dim, unsettling glow. Mike's walkie crackled to life, but instead of a voice, there was a strange static, like whispers barely audible, almost sounding like faint, desperate cries. He tried to call for the manager, but the signal cut off. Suddenly, from the far end of aisle 12, something heavy dropped with a loud clang. Mike's heart pounded as he cautiously approached, his flashlight beam shaking. When he reached the spot, there was nothing on the floor except a pallet of canned goods knocked over, spilling cans in every direction. But what unsettled him more was the trail of wet footprints leading away. Not human footprints, but something else, wider, irregular, like claws dragging on the ground. Mike's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number appeared. "You shouldn't be here." He looked around wildly, trying to see anyone in the shadowed aisles. Then, the exit doors slammed shut with a deafening bang. The speakers overhead began crackling out a distorted announcement, a garbled voice repeating, "You're not alone. You're never alone." Over and over. Panicking, Mike ran towards the exit, only to find every door locked tight. The lights flickered again, and in the brief flashes, Mike glimpsed shadowy figures standing motionless between the shelves, pale, distorted faces with hollow eyes staring right at him. When the lights stabilized, the figures were gone. His breath came in ragged gasps as he sprinted through the aisles, searching for an emergency exit. The whispers followed him, growing louder, now clearly voices murmuring his name, promising they'd never let him leave. Finally, he found the emergency exit, a door normally alarmed, but this time unlocked. He burst outside into the cold night air, heart racing, never daring to look back. Mike quit his job the next day and refused to speak about that night, but rumors started. Other night shift workers vanished without explanation, and employees reported unexplained noises, strange shadows, and chilling messages on their phones. Some say the Costco is built on an old, forgotten burial ground, and others whisper about something lurking beneath the massive warehouse, something that wakes when the lights go out, stalking those who wander alone in the dark aisles. And if you ever shop at night, some employees say you can still hear the faint, desperate cries echoing through the empty warehouse long after closing.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 3.
I worked at a Costco warehouse for a few months during the summer. It was my first job, and honestly, I was excited to be part of something so massive. The building itself was huge, endless rows of products stacked high, the kind of place where you could easily lose track of time and space. One night, during my second week, I was scheduled for the closing shift. The day had been exhausting, and as customers trickled out, the place grew eerily silent, except for the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Around 10:30 p.m., just as I was finishing up restocking some shelves near the far back corner of the store, I noticed something strange. There was a section of aisles that usually had some staff hanging around until the end, but tonight it was completely deserted. As I walked closer, I caught sight of a faint flicker, like a shadow moving quickly between the towering pallets of boxed goods. I thought maybe it was just a trick of the light or my imagination playing games after a long day. But then I heard it, a soft, low scratching sound coming from behind a stack of large boxes. I paused, heart starting to race, listening closely. It sounded almost like nails tapping or scraping against the cardboard. I called out, "Hello? Is someone back there?" No answer. I stepped closer and shone my flashlight into the dim aisle. Nothing. Just rows of empty boxes and the cold concrete floor. I tried to shake off the unease and went back to my tasks. Minutes later, the store's power briefly flickered. The lights dimmed for a second, then came back on. That's when I realized I'd lost my walkie-talkie. I always kept it clipped to my belt, but now it was gone. I checked my pockets in the nearby shelves, but it was nowhere to be found. I reported it to the manager over the store intercom, who told me to keep calm and that someone would come by soon. Then, the lights started to flicker again, but this time more violently, the humming noise of the fluorescent bulbs changing pitch, like a warning. I felt a chill crawl up my spine and decided to head toward the exit, but the usual path was blocked by stacked pallets arranged oddly, as if someone had moved them. It wasn't like the organized warehouse I'd been working in. Suddenly, I caught sight of movement at the very edge of my peripheral vision. A dark figure standing just beyond the rows, barely visible but definitely there. I spun around to face it, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. I was frozen for a moment, unsure if I was hallucinating. Then I heard the paging system crackle to life, but instead of the usual announcements, a distorted voice whispered my name over and over, not in a clear tone, but stretched and broken, like it was coming from underwater. Panicked, I rushed to the exit doors, but they wouldn't open. I tried the emergency release, but the mechanism felt jammed. The temperature in the store dropped suddenly, my breath visible in the air. The shadows seemed to grow longer, deeper, wrapping the whole warehouse in darkness. The fluorescent lights all shut off at once, plunging me into pitch black. I fumbled for my phone, trying to turn on the flashlight, but the screen cracked suddenly in my hand. Then, out of nowhere, a cold whisper brushed past my ear, so close I felt its breath. "Don't leave. The emergency lights kicked on after what felt like forever, and the doors finally unlocked with a loud click. I ran out, heart pounding, never looking back. The next day, when I told my manager what happened, he looked pale and said something I'll never forget. "You weren't the first to experience that. Several employees have reported strange noises and missing items near that same aisle. We've tried to investigate, but no cameras cover that area. Some say the warehouse was built over old ground that shouldn't have been disturbed." I quit that week. I never went back, and I still get chills thinking about what I felt in that endless warehouse. The feeling that something unseen was watching, waiting, and maybe even wanting to trap me there forever.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 4.
The night shift at Costco was supposed to be routine. Mark had worked there for 2 years, mostly stocking shelves and cleaning up after the day crew left. But that Friday night, something felt off from the moment he clocked in. The parking lot was unusually empty for a weekend, and the fluorescent lights inside flickered just a little too much. It started with the cameras. Mark noticed that the security monitors kept glitching, the feeds cutting out for seconds at a time. The control room was empty. Security was supposed to be there until midnight, but no one had shown up yet. He shrugged it off, thinking maybe someone was late. But then the lights dimmed again, more pronounced this time, and the temperature in the store dropped suddenly. As Mark pushed a pallet of water bottles down aisle 7, he heard something that sounded like whispering. He froze, straining to listen, but the store was silent except for the hum of the refrigerators. The whispers grew louder, but no one was around. He checked the aisle, empty. His heart pounded, but he kept moving. Later, in the food court area, Mark saw a shadow dart behind the big display of bulk snacks. He called out, but no answer. He told himself it was a trick of the light, maybe a reflection. Then a cart rolled slowly down the aisle by itself, making a soft clattering noise. Mark's phone buzzed. It was a text from the store manager. "Lock all doors. Emergency. Don't leave the building." No explanation. His gut twisted. The back doors slammed shut, and suddenly all the TVs in the store switched on, showing static-filled footage of the aisles. But in each shot, figures stood just out of focus, tall, dark, faceless. Mark blinked, and they vanished. His radio crackled with a strange voice, whispering his name repeatedly. The voice wasn't human. It was distorted, chilling. Mark tried to run to the exit, but every door was locked tight. The emergency lights flickered on, casting long shadows that seemed to move toward him. He ran toward the employee break room, hoping to find a way out or call for help. Inside, the room was freezing cold, and the walls were smeared with what looked like handprints. Not red, but a deep black, like shadows had been pressed against the surface. Suddenly, the PA system blared to life, but instead of the usual announcements, it played a distorted lullaby. The store's lights went out completely, plunging Mark into darkness. The whispering came back, louder, surrounding him from every direction. He fumbled for his phone, but the screen showed nothing but static. The cart he saw earlier was now rolling directly at him, seemingly on its own, bumping into his legs. He stumbled backward and crashed into a stack of boxes, sending them tumbling down around him. When the lights flickered back on moments later, Mark was alone. The doors unlocked, and the store returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. The cameras were working again, but the strange figures on the footage were gone. The next morning, when the day crew arrived, they found the store undisturbed except for the toppled boxes and the lingering cold that no one could explain. Mark quit that day and never returned, but sometimes late at night he still hears the lullaby in his dreams and the whisper calling his name from the darkness inside Costco.